Welcome back, everybody. The fun continues as we cover the next chapter, which is chapter 11, in our Builder's Guide to Accounting video series. So this is another important chapter that I think you should spend quite a bit of time reviewing. It's not a large chapter, but you should still spend a little bit of time reviewing it. If you watched my previous videos and the other series that I did where I cover the Florida Contractor's Manual, I mentioned that there are instances where information between the information in this book and the information in the Florida Contractor's Manual is covered redundantly. Both books cover essentially the same thing. And this is one of those chapters where I think a lot of the information that's in here has already been covered in the Florida Contractor's Manual. But like I said, I think it's important to review it because this can only help you. Here we're talking about payroll accounting, but I think the most important aspect that they really want you to understand in this chapter is payroll accounting with respect to taxation. But we'll get into it. Let's kind of go over what I think is important here in chapter 11. So, labor is the largest and most variable cost in building. Because of the nature of labor costs and the legal and practical needs for payroll bookkeeping, you must keep complete records. I mean, obviously, that kind of goes without saying, but still. 4 ways to keep separate payroll records. Pay a bank or an independent data service center to prepare your payroll and provide backup reports. Issue payroll checks from one general account and then from the same check series. Checks in this account must be designed to handle payroll stub deductions. Use the general account for both payroll and other payments, but use a special style of check with its own numbering system for payroll. Enter payroll on the check register in summary form. Set up separate payroll account with its own check style used only for payroll. I think this is pretty important. This is something that may come up on the exam. I vaguely remember seeing a question on exam that was pertaining to payroll record keeping and how people are paid and what kind of systems can be used. As we move on, a lot of this information I think is something that you've probably already seen and should be fairly familiar with. So I'm not going to spend too much time here, but let's get to, on page 132, accounting for tax liabilities, which is something that was covered in the Florida Contractor's Manual. So this should be familiar if you've already done that. They're talking about a clearing account, and figure 1110 shows the flow of funds through a clearing account such as payroll taxes withheld. This is just an example that they're giving you. Gross payroll of $5,000. Withholding taxes are $1,521 for the current month. The amount includes tax liability on behalf of the employees. So it is deposited in the clearing account in the current month. I don't want to spend too much time just reading. I just think that this part and understanding what a clearing account is what you really should focus on. Just be able to define what a clearing account is and what its purpose is. And you could always cover these paragraphs on your own, but I think that this is an important section to know and an important figure to understand. Next, we're on page 137. So this is something that should be familiar already if you've watched my other videos on the Florida Contractor's Manual. They're mentioning Form 941, Employers' Quarterly Federal Tax Returns. All right, this is something that is very, very familiar. Payroll forms. This is one of them. And on page 138, I think there's a lot of important information. Summarized below are the federal tax forms most builders need for their payroll accounting. So you've got your W-2s, W-3s, W-4s, 8109s, 508s, 940s, 941. 941 I think is particularly important because it's constantly mentioned all over in this book and in the other one. So used once each quarter to report and pay FICA and withholding taxes. Know what this form does. What is its purpose? Know that one because this is the one. 940 and 941 are the ones that come up the most. Okay. Some types of payments to include on your 1099 are dividends or interest over $10 in 1 year, and rents, commissions, and other types of miscellaneous income over $600 you pay someone other than your material suppliers. Okay, very, very important, because they may bring up the whole concept of 1099s on the exam. But that's pretty much it. Like I said, it's not a big chapter, and some of this stuff is very much redundant, but I think it's still important to understand and be able to find. And another thing that I've mentioned before in some of my previous videos, if you're not exactly sure where to get an answer to a particular question, if they're asking a question regarding tax forms, it may be easier to get an answer in this book than in the Florida Contractor's Manual, because remember, like I said before in my other videos, this book is much easier to navigate. The index is much, much better. So you may be able to source your information from either this book or the other book, whatever is easiest for you. You know, just use whatever works. When it comes to this information, I think that, well, let me just take a step back. When it comes to taxes, I think the Florida Contractor's Manual goes into way more detail. So I would probably, if it's a detail-oriented question, I think I would probably start there. But if it's a question that really is only talking about like definitions and simple terms where they're looking for you to know what something is, I would probably start here, because like I said, the definitions here are easier to source, the index is easier to work, and that's about it. So some test questions on page 139 for you to cover. As always, answers are in the back, and if you're understanding these test questions, you probably don't have anything to worry about with respect to the information in this chapter. If you've got any questions or comments, please let me know. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.